Good morning, family. It is Thursday. It is April Fool's Day. And today and tomorrow, moms, and Deanna are taking their real estate test. No pressure. Tim, would you mind closing that door for me, sir, so that we don't get the excess traffic noise? So, moms is taking her test. Deanna is taking her test. They're going to be doing that today and tomorrow. So we're going to find out who passes and who fails. What are the bets? What do you think, Christy? What do you think, Barbara? Andres, Tim?
Hillary's taken.
You think they're both going to pass? You think that Christy thinks that they're both going to pass too? They've been studying like crazy. They've been studying like crazy. You guys both think that they're both going to. What do you think, Barbara? You think you want to put some money on whether or not we're going to have a pass fail? All of this support, all of this support. Moms and Auntie D off taking the test. Everybody says that they're going to pass. Lots of support for them. Going to do that today. Good luck, guys. Good luck. You guys have studied hard for this. I'm proud of you guys. Actually, I think that one of them is already in the test site now. So they're gonna get in there. They're gonna test. Hopefully, they're gonna pass, and they're gonna be licensed and ready to go. We had our big Serpent Team hiring event yesterday, and it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. It was a good thing to be a part of. It felt really good. Everyone just sort of jumping in and interviewing each other. Um, Man, I'm excited about this journey. We have officially, as of today, officially, I have fired myself. Kate has fired herself. We are bursting at the seams. We have people that are ready to serve our clients that will honestly do better than we will do at this point because we have so much at our table. So, we're fired. We're done. At this point, we need people to close. We need people to work. I'm going to start doing all this different stuff. We launched a couple of different really fancy things today. First off, hip hop tickets are on sale for the fourth Saturday of this month. The Eventbrite link is up. So congratulations to Lika Palmer for curating that event. And then the other thing that we've got going on, which is very exciting, is areyouleavingcalifornia.com is technically up. We're not really going to be promoting it too much until this weekend, but we've got that going. That's going to end up being a really big source of lead generation for the Serpent team. And it's going to be very exciting. And my goodness, everybody is texting me right now. And I'm just stretched a little bit thin. So I'm going to put my phone upside down. I'm going to tune into class. And what we are going to do is we're going to jump into oh, geez, I didn't even put the day on here. Day 54 of your free real estate education. And we are going to talk about license to use land, water rights, and boundary lines. Specifically, we're going to focus for a little while on water rights because I think that that's something that is it's very pertinent out here, being in an area where a lot of people are on wells, where there's a lot of underwater or underground water. But there has been a lot of situations where people have bought homes where the well has been drained because of the some of the illegal cannabis grow operations out here. People come in, they grow in every room of the house, they drain the well, and then they move out. So anyway, it's created a situation where you want to make sure that you're getting that the water is potable, that the water is tested, that you have rights to the water. And in fact, and we always talk about how these things, like yesterday was rent versus own, and how that scales to owning your business versus being an employee, and how that scales to owning your commercial space versus being a commercial tenant. And so all of these things, of course, are connected. It's the same thing on the state level. So if we don't own our water rights, if we don't own the right to A, collect rainwater, that's just silly. But B, if Nestle has more rights to water than you do, then you might be living in the state of California where we have been described as having a worse water situation, a worse water crisis than Flint, Michigan, where 1 million people go without clean drinking water in the Central Valley. So there's a lot of things that you need to consider when buying real estate. Water rights is, of course, one of them. And then we're going to jump in a little bit to boundary lines and how to figure out where the boundary line is. Some little tips that you can do when you go out to a property, like looking for those little white stakes that are in the ground if a surveyor has been out there recently, and who to reach out to in the event that a house has not had a surveyor out there. There are no white stakes in the ground. You don't know where the boundary lines are, and you're not necessarily sure that title is accurate either. So you want to make sure that your clients are covered, that you're covered in all of these situations, and that's really on you as the buyer's agent and the buyer to do your due diligence on the property. It's not necessarily on the seller to disclose, and in fact, a lot of times there's a lot of verbiage that protects both the listing agent and the seller that is included in the contracts that basically releases them of any form of liability and then puts it back on you to do your due diligence. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. My computer is not plugged in right now, and it drains battery so quickly if it is not plugged in with all of these programs running in the background. Okay, let's jump in here. So tomorrow we have our Socratic discussion. Every Friday we have a Socratic discussion. It's when you get to hear from people like Christy Champagne, Chardonnay, Caruso, and Barbara, and Tim, and we all jump in. We use our brains and we engage our brain housing group to think objectively about our business. And the topic that we're going to be discussing tomorrow is going to be, how can you financially benefit from the post-boomer boom? Like we've talked about before, a lot of money is getting ready to change hands throughout the world. $30 trillion over the course of the next couple of decades, $100 trillion worldwide, most of that through real estate. 95% of wealth that is inherited is spent within the first 5 years of inheritance, which means that people want to unlock the wealth that they inherit. And of course they do. The generation that passes the wealth off was in a significantly better financial situation than the rest of us and what we have sort of been born into. And so there's a lot of debt, and there is a lot less opportunity to sort of bridge that class from the lower to the upper class like there was at one point. And so, of course, that wealth is going to be spent. So how can you capitalize on that situation in your business? And then the last piece of homework that I really want to encourage you guys to jump into, if you have not already, enroll in your real estate courses. You can do that. We offer the First Tuesday curriculum just by logging into calpaces.com. That's CALPACES.com. You will put in the discount code 6106, and then you will get a 30% off discount. Select the ebook option versus the print option, and then that will reduce your total cost to $102.55. We do not financially benefit from that. That all goes directly to First Tuesday. We've partnered with them through this program called CalPaces, where they offer us a discount for people who want to be a part of real estate school. Okay. And then tomorrow, if I can figure it out, for the love of God, we're going to watch a YouTube video. We have not been able to figure that out through Ecamm. Unfortunately, the screen share is more complicated than my brain can handle through YouTube videos. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's jump in here. Let's move to the whiteboard because that's where we're going to do all of our best discussions. And we'll move all the lighting. Tum, 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 tum. Here we go. Exciting times. I like doing moving all of this around because you get the chance to see all of the things in the office. Like, take a look at that calendar. Look at that. That's cool. All of the great things happening in our community. There's a comedy night on Friday. It's already sold out, of course. And then they added a show at 10 o'clock. Somebody move my markers. It's the rough thing sometime about a community workspace is that my things get moved. What good is a whiteboard wall without markers? Tim, would you mind checking to see if they're on the desk, in the desk? Oh, there they are. They have been found. They're spotted. What are they doing all the way over here, guys? Jeez. All right. We've lost all the people that aren't really down for the cause that are like, hey, what's SERPA up to right now? Okay. Okay, so I want to start with water rights because that's more exciting. Then we're going, I always do that in that slant. Just going to do that right there. We're going to talk about boundary lines. Make that red. And we are going to discuss license to use land. Which really we should get into license to use. We should get into sort of like zoning. But we should also get into because that's kind of a okay. License to use land. Get into all right, yeah, we can get into zoning, license to use. Okay. I'm not told. I should have probably reviewed that chapter. Jeez, sir. Slipping. This is why I need people. That's why I need people, more people in my life right now. I have too much on my plate, but that is a good thing. Here we go. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is water rights. This is really going to be more important when it comes to being in Awanga, Anza, some of the unincorporated areas of Temecula. So when you're going out to some of these more rural areas, these areas where you're kind of driving out down these dirt roads, there's a pretty good chance that they're not connected to city water and power. But you also want to make sure as well, of course. So don't assume anything. Now, like we said, with all of this, the due diligence, it's always on the buyer, right? So the buyer and their agent have to confirm everything. You cannot make assumptions about assumptions. That's a little real estate joke. Hope you got it. I'm on fire right now with these real estate jokes. So with water, we're going to, a couple of different things. Just like we talked about, this is a big area, a big deal in areas like Arrowhead right now, where people assume that, they have rights to the lake and that, the community might have rights to it, but like it ends up being Nestle, or like in Flint, where water has actually been rerouted away from the city. And of course, they're next to one of the largest freshwater reserves in the world in Lake Michigan. But anyway, I don't want to get too far out of my wheelhouse because then somebody's going to fact check me on my bullshit. Okay, so check for potability. So potability is going to be whether or not the water is drinkable. You want to check for whether or not it is producing. And what they will tell you when you get a well check on this is it's producing 8 gallons a minute, or it's producing 20 gallons a minute, or you have two different wells. One produces 20 gallons a minute, and the other one produces 100 gallons a minute. And then a lot of times, if when you get your home inspection, if you're buying a place with a lot of land, they'll go out and they'll kind of walk the land, and they'll be like, okay, the whole place is ran up with an irrigation system. This is how you will turn off the well. This is an overflow, and because technically the home is below the well, so you don't want this turned off, because then what will happen is if you leave the sink running, it will flood the entire house. So there's a lot of different things that you need to think about when it comes to buying a house or a commercial property with water, right? You don't want to have an assumption that you have, anyway, we don't need to beat a dead horse here. So test it for potability, test it for production. Part of the issue here is we used to cover 6 chapters in a day when it was in our first trimester, and then we were doing 4 chapters in a day, and now we're only doing 3 chapters in a day. So there's just like not really a whole lot to cover when it comes to real estate law that we are going to jump in heavily to. So some of these days are just going to be a little bit lighter than other days. Okay, so boundary lines. So one of the things that you want to check for when you go out to look at a property are these like white stakes that will show you what it's zoned for. You can get a plot map from your title company. You don't want to just go to like Google Maps and be like, okay, that's your property. But so a lot of times you end up in a situation where you kind of need to use, and this is ironic enough that I just said, don't use Google Maps, but you're going to use Google Maps. You're going to use whatever tools necessary in order to really confirm what it is that your clients are buying before they buy it. So, of course, you can have a surveyor out when it comes to time to, open escrow or whatnot. But you want to do the best that you can before you get out to the property to have a pretty good idea of what you're looking at. Because a lot of times it gets so confusing when you're driving out to these properties because you're driving through easements. You're not driving through, city maintained roads. You're not driving through county maintained roads. You're driving through people's properties to get to other people's properties. And so that eventually you could get to the property that you're going to potentially be buying. And of course, and we've talked about easements before. Easements get granted in order to maintain access to property before they become, permanent easements. Sometimes there'll be a time allotment for the easement, or if the easement has not been used, then you can't assume that it's like if the easement has not been used in, I think it's like 10 years or 15 years or even 5 years in some states, then you can't assume that you can still get access to your property. So you don't want to buy a property that your clients can't have access to. And this is one of the things that when you're buying a home through the VA loan, they're going to make sure that your client has access to the property. And if it is not through a city or county maintained road, they have to grant an exception in order to do that. So you have to, if you work with a good lender, a good title company, often you can have a pretty good idea of what you're walking into before you walk out there into it. Okay, so look for the white stakes when you get out to the property. Like a lot of times there will be, let's do it here. So a lot of times in Temecula, you'll see sort of like these plots that are like this. And this is like in Winchester, of course, too. And like they're all 5-acre plots. And you're like, oh, well, great. There's a 5-acre plot. So, we could go in and we could build 3 or 4 houses on it. And how great for my clients. What a great deal. But what ends up happening is, Temecula is, of course, a master planned community. So like all of these 5-acre plots have certain restrictions, right? One of the restrictions, like in certain areas, is that like 3 acres or like 4 acres has to be planted orange groves or avocado trees or vineyards. And so, you could work out deals with local wineries where sometimes they'll rent the space on your land from you or whatnot. And people do capitalize on situations like that. But I'm getting off into the woods here. So you need to make sure that what you're buying is actually zoned for what you want to use it for. So if it's Ag 10, it's agriculture, 10 acres. If it's RA5, if it's RR or R1, sorry, I got stuck in a little bit of an autistic loophole. There's all these different types of zoning. And if you don't necessarily know what the zoning is, what's really great is specifically about Murrieta, Temecula, is you could type in zoning. Like you'll type in Ag 10, Murrieta, and then the city website will pop up, and then you'll be able to zone or go down to where Ag 10 is, or the handbook will pop up, and then you have an actual idea of what Ag 10 means or of what RR means. Because you want to know for that city specifically what it is that your clients are buying. And of course, not to get off in the woods, but if you buy a property expecting that you're going to be able to use it for a VRBO, but in the restrictions or in the HOA or whatever, the city says you're not allowed to have VRBOs within city limits, then you need to know that before you buy the property, because what they're doing is they don't necessarily want to have party houses out there and whatnot, and so instead of passing restrictions, where it's like keep it below a certain decibel level, or the noise is this, or an automatic deduction from this, or an increased required deposit in order to rent this property. And instead of placing restrictions, they're just like illegal, bam, because that's what government does. And so you end up in a situation where even though you own the property, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are able to do what you want to do with it. Now, of course, that also protects other people. So, like, let's say, like, this is a single family, this is a single family, this is a single family, and all of these people, they all live out there. They have got one home on 5 acres. They enjoy the quiet or whatever, and then somebody comes in and they put in 10 homes, or an individual or a developer, or they come in and they build a gas station. So, like, there's a reason why there is zoning, and why anyway, there's a reason for all of this stuff, and it really, what it does is it protects homeowners, it protects the city, it protects developers, etc., so forth and so on. Okay. License to use. So, like, commercial. Anyway, all right, that's it. Buyer agent. What did I say about this? Buyer agent. Oh, the buyer's agent to confirm all. Of course, with all of this different stuff, a lot of times when you go through the MLS, you'll see a lot of this stuff is just left empty. Like, there's literally nothing in there. Like, doesn't say what it's zoned. There's like one picture from the street, and it's a 20-acre parcel, and your client is looking for a piece of commercial property where they could live in the back. Well, what is that zone for? Of course, like if you call the agent, they're gonna be like, I don't know. You need to do your due diligence, talk to your title guy. So you're gonna end up going down this long rabbit hole where you just kind of got to figure it out on your own. So sometimes it's as simple as having an express account on Ticor Title, to where you've got Hector or Anthony Andre set you up, and then you could go in. And I do this all the time. And in fact, this is a really probably going to absolutely do this. So reach out to Hector or Anthony, Andre, or really any Ticor Title rep has access to this. And the truth is most title companies have access to something like this. So just, gosh, I always end up getting myself in trouble because somebody's like, oh, such and such was taking your class and they work with this title company, and, you're being, they told you that, you're supposed to work with Ticor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to help people out. So I don't want people going out and just, trying to figure out for themselves in the woods, right? So at the end of the day, work with whatever title company you want to work with, right? But that being said, I have worked with Anthony Andre for 7 years. And one of the things that I like about Ticor, and of course, I just haven't explored a lot of other relationships, unlike every other relationship that I've been in, except for with of course, I'm talking professionally. Old Republic Home Warranty has been great for my clients. So there are certain things where I just kind of feel like I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like with a title company, I'm like, if you're a punter or a field goal kicker and you're doing your job, I don't have to replace you. If you drop the ball or you're missing field goals, then you're replaced. But that's like, anyway, that being said, holy crap, I apologize for the tangent. Find a relationship with a title company that gives you access to an account to where you can pull a lot of this information yourself. And a lot of them have really great systems. Find out whatever title company that you want to work with, and then find out what systems that they have that you can tap into on your own, so that you're not waiting for them to get the assessor's data, to be able to pull a title report, to be able to find out, to be able to pull a preliminary report and see if, the house, because sometimes you'll pull a report through Express and a little like red icon will show up in the corner, and you know that there's an issue, that the house is either in a state of delinquency or whatever. Or I'm out door knocking, and instead of going out and door knocking blind, I want to door knock. I want to find out the person's name. I'll just find it out through Express. Or somebody is contacting me because they want to sell their house, and I pull the title and I'm doing the CMA, and I find out that the person does not own the house. And then I say, oh, well, I'm happy to meet with you. Okay, I meet with them. And then I tell them, oh, by the way, who is X, right? And then, oh, that's my dad. My dad actually owns the property. I rent from them because we got foreclosed on in 2008. We weren't able to buy a house. So he bought the house for us, and we've been paying him ever since. So like there's a lot of different situations that are very complex that you don't necessarily need to assume the worst, but it does put you in an empowered situation to go in with the knowledge of knowing, okay, well, who is it that's on title? Okay, well, is the title address for where they receive mail different from where they actually are living? Because if they have the address, this street, right? But then that street is the address that they live in. And a lot of times you'll see this where you'll see a house that's owned out here in Temecula, Murrieta, Winchester, Menifee, etc., where the home owner lives in Orange County. So if you go out and you door knock an expired in Winchester, but the homeowner, you find out through Express that that they live in Orange County, then you're wasting your time by going out and knocking on what is probably a tenant's door. And I found that out the hard way by just going out, hey, why? Just hey, I did this market analysis. I know that your house didn't sell X, Y, and Z. Hey, man, I'm actually people are a lot more nice than this. I always act like people are like really mean, but people were really nice. They said, you know what, I'm actually renting this place, but I appreciate you coming by, because everybody always assumes that everybody's off door knocking everyone to offer value. And what I would do when I was door knocking is part of this package I would pull with Express was I would get the title report, I'd get everything together, I'd get it in a package so that then when I'm ready to go door knock, I'm having a very informed conversation based on what the property sold for or did not sell for, how long it was listed, whether or not pictures were taken, whether or not it was listed on secondary websites or was being treated as a pocket listing. And so when I'm going up and I'm knocking on the door, I've done my due diligence. I have researched so that when I knock on the door, I know that I'm talking to a homeowner, more than likely. Versus what I used to do at the beginning of my career when I would go out door knocking. I would pull, I do everything, and I do a bunch of work, but I wasn't necessarily pulling. Oh wait, no. I've had such a long career. I've had 450 homes or so sold, and of course that's not that long. Other people have done longer. I actually learned about Express in the first month of my career, and I've been using it the entire time. I've always used Express or something like Express with Anthony Andre to find out the names of the people that I'm door knocking before I door knock them. Anyway, all of that said. Okay, cool. So do your due diligence. That's, if anything, we've probably learned that is what's important today. And of course, you have that 17-day period where you get to do your due diligence, where you walk out to a property and it's a 20-acre property. There aren't stakes in the ground. There's a lot of different things going on. There's 2 wells on the property, and you're not necessarily sure which end is up. That doesn't make you alone in the real estate world. It's a very complicated thing to try to figure out for every single property before you go out and tour it. And then you're going to have questions that are going to come up. That's why you have that 17-day due diligence period where your buyers get to perform on the property. They get to have all of their questions answered. And of course, you need to tell them what they're going to pay for and what they're not going to pay for. You could ask for the seller to pay for the potability test and to pay for a well test and to pay for all these different things, but they may not be in a financial situation where they're able to do so. So just that's all in that 17-day period. And then, of course, if it doesn't work out, your buyer can back out for any reason as long as they have not removed contingencies in writing. So buyer agent confirm, buyer agent confirm, buyer agent confirm. Do not assume that the information that is on the MLS is correct. Reach out to the agent if you would like to. Of course, I have severe phone anxiety. I don't necessarily like to talk to these agents, which is why my wife handles a lot of the phone calls. My wife orders for us in drive-throughs, Tim. I'm not too proud. So there are certain conversations that I just don't feel like having again and again and again and again, especially if I could find the information out myself. One of the things that I could not stand in the beginning of my career was people calling me and saying, "Hey, do you know what the property's zoned for? You know what this?" And I would do all of the things and figure out what it was zoned for, and I would put it all in the MLS. And was like, "I'm not even asking you to pull title. I'm just asking you to look at the freaking information that's listed on the MLS." And so what ends up happening is you end up in a situation where you get some of these agents that get a little bit salty, where they get, let's say they get 15 or 20 listings in there, over the course of a year or whatnot. That's a lot of inventory to handle. And when you start getting asked the same questions again and again and again, it pisses you off. And of course, I try to treat everything with kid gloves. And oh, of course, that information is in the MLS, but X, Y, and Z. But then you get to a point where it's like, what's your time worth? And if you have to keep answering the same questions again and again and again and again, you're losing money at some point, right? Especially in a market like this. People get so angry at these agents that are not answering their phone when they're getting 70 offers. This house that we just, excuse me, this house that we just missed out on over the weekend, 40 offers. The offer that they accepted was $70,000 over asking. $70,000 over asking in cash. That's extraordinarily difficult to compete with. And now put it in the other situation where, as a seller, and this is why I have compassion for this person, even though of course they're getting paid, their phone has been ringing off the hook. So when I'm trying to get a hold of them and they're not necessarily getting back to me, and said, "Hey, we're going to review offers on Monday," then it got pushed to Tuesday, and then it was like, "Hey, we didn't hear from them," and then it was yesterday, and then they got back to us. It's like, "Hey, listen, that's a lot of inventory to handle," and even one house right now is a lot of inventory to handle if you don't have a lot of systems, or even if you do have a lot of systems, because inventory is so low, which is why we got 3 referrals in the last 48 hours. That's the truth. That's one of the reasons why we had to decide that we're going to stop working with people and refer everybody to our team, because I have realized at this point, and I realized this about a month ago, but Kate is a little bit more stubborn than I am, and she was really wanting to set us up. Like, at this point, it is better for our clients to work with people who have more time than what we have. With Kate running our team now, running the house, having 5 kids with all the things that they've got going on, helping me to run our community, doing all of the financial left brain stuff that I'm not equipped to handle. And then with me being a rainmaker, being in the office, running essentially a second team of, my fellow business owners, entrepreneurs, et cetera, and so forth, a community center. We have to be willing to fire ourselves. We have to be willing to let go. And so we're in a situation where it's like, okay, how do I empower my clients? How do I empower myself? And sometimes the best thing that you can do is to decide what your time is worth, whether or not you're costing people money, right? Whether or not you're costing yourself money, right? And then here's the last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll move on. Because a lot of people assume, oh, you know what? I'm going to be the best person for the job. I'm the best person for the job, et cetera, and so forth. First off, I would beg to differ. More often than not, there's somebody out there who's better at what you do than what you are. I'm sorry to say so, but that's true, right? So, but I have enough confidence in myself when I'm really doing well that I'm like, I'm the best. I'm the best that there is. I'm the best that they're going to have access to. I'm going to do everything that I can within my power to empower my clients. But then when you get to a point to where you have 12, 15 clients that want to go out looking at properties, then you are in a situation where it's like, okay, am I now empowering my clients, or could I empower my clients by empowering my agents to serve more clients? So instead of even considering yourself a force multiplier, understand that sometimes the best use of your force, the best use of your energy is slightly shifted so that you can do something differently and then empower somebody to do the things that you were doing. Or in my situation, I have somebody who probably has sold more real estate than I have that is now part of my team, to where it's just like, and I've got another person who knows more than I do in a lot of ways that's a part of my team. And it's very humbling. It's very empowering, because it empowers me to do the things that I'm good at. systems, procedures, rainmaking, chaos coordination, right? Because then everybody is helping everybody. That cooperative environment is created, and then everybody can, have all of these little questions answered that they need to have answered. Okay. Everybody have a great day. I'll stick around for a moment on Zoom to see if anybody has any questions. Adios. Cheers. Terrible plastic bottle industry. David Serpa, you rat bastard.
I got good and bad sparklet system on, so it's
Tim's looking down on me. He's like, I've got the Sparklet system. Serpa,
not. Sparklets,
you're rotten with your bottled water.
man, this pretty much tastes so good though. So good.
All right. Adios. Yeah.